So what is archimate? The OpenGroup say quite simply that archimate is a graphical modeling language for enterprise architecture. But what does that mean? What we see in archimate is a build-out. It's an elaboration of the TOGAF architecture content meta model in a way that gives enterprise architects more power and flexibility to define business architectures, information data architectures, application architectures, and technology architectures. So there is a more rigorous and more completely defined meta model. And semantics, especially their relationships in archimate as into TOGAF. We can also see that there's a strong concept of layering in archimate, which allows us to create graphical views of the entire stack: business, information, data, application, technology, and infrastructure. We can work completely in one of those layers to define a complete business architecture. And at the end of the workday, we have established all of the relationships, the integration and touch points between business application and technology and infrastructure. So there is an integrated approach to creating architecture views and capturing knowledge about our architecture. Archimate is also strongly integrated with TOGAF 9.1. And that's going to increase over the future. So we can see on the left here, we have a picture of the TOGAF architecture development ADM. You have seen it before. And we can see that it is mapped to the archimate content meta model. So in archimate, we have business, application, and technology layers. And these capture phases to phases B, C, and D in the architecture development model in TOGAF. We also have in archimate two extensions: a motivation extension which captures the information in the TOGAF preliminary phase, phase A, the architecture vision requirements phase H, architecture change management. Also in archimate we have an implementation of migration extension which captures to phase E, opportunity and solutions, phase F, migration and planning, and phase G, implementation and governance. So we've got all the things in archimate that we had in TOGAF, in the TOGAF architecture development method, but we got more. So what can we do with archimate? If a few stakeholders can learn and start to use a consistent architecture content meta model, that's a giant leap forward, even if they're not using the architecture repository. Architects can create reusable architecture building blocks that allow the architects to work in a way that is more consistent, accurate, efficient, predictable, and repeatable. Does it work? Yes, it does. A few years ago at McLaren, they were taking 3 months to do the baseline architectural investigation for a new major corporate transformation. Today, as a result of adopting a consistent team-based architectural content meta model, and the architecture repository, they're getting that same work done in 3 hours. 3 months versus 3 hours. That's the business benefit, and that's significant. It does work. So we can find that if we can populate an architecture repository using a consistent architecture meta model, and that allows us to have an aligned architecture that is more accurate, and our work as architects is more efficient and more structured. So archimate, we say, we believe that can be a critical enabler for an enterprise architecture repository and for an enterprise architecture mindset. Here is the TOGAF 9.1 architecture repository you may have seen before. So that is the target now. The business benefit of an architecture repository is it becomes a tool for answering architecture questions. We'd no longer have to rely on Visio. We'd no longer have to rely on our memory. And once we got that knowledge in an enterprise architecture repository, we can reuse it. So that's where that makes us more effective. Now your sponsors and stakeholders in the business are going to notice several improvements in the performance and delivery of the architecture team. Basically, they're going to get greater business value, and the architects are going to get more work done faster. They are going to be creating better results, but over a period of time they're going to be requiring fewer architects. But there'll be plenty of things to do for the architects.